Hello to our global audience and welcome to Stonebranch Online 2022. I'm Mary McPartland from Stonebranch and I will be your moderator for today's session where we're talking about self-service automation. We have a fantastic lineup of speakers for you here today, but before we jump into that, I want to go over just a few logistics. First off, we want this event to be interactive between you and the speakers. So if at any point in time you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A chat box, and we will have dedicated time to answer those at the end of the session. The second thing is you'll also notice a handout section on your screen where we have dropped in a couple resources that we think that you might find valuable for today's session. So feel free to download those, and we'd love for you to check those out. Now, I'd love to just jump in and introduce our speakers today. We have Patrick Urbanchek, our Principal Product Owner at ING, and Mariusz Dubowski, the Senior DevOps Expert with ING. Now, I know you didn't come here to hear me talk, so I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Patrick. Patrick, tell us a little bit about yourself and the work you do.
Hey, thank you very much. So welcome, everybody. I'm really happy to have opportunity to speak to you today. And together with Mariusz, we're going to tell, I believe, a nice story, how UAC has been implemented in ING, and how it's being developed as a platform delivered to ING DevOps teams. So we split this session into two parts and two presenters. So it will be myself. My name is Patrick, and I'm Principal Product Owner in Workload Automation Squad. And next speaker is Mariusz Dubowski, who's the Senior DevOps Expert in the same squad. So first part is going to be a really quick one from my side, as I'm going to share some details about how UAC evolved as a service and platform and how it's reflected on a timeline. Next, I will shed some light on several fundamental assumptions that we defined as the requirements for self-service we've built. And the last slide from my side will refer to team product structure we board and attach specific rights and permission to. So we can move on to the first slide showing the timelines. And the story and history begins in 2013 in Belgium, where for the very first time OpsWise was set up. The former name of the UAC was OpsWise, so I believe some of you remember this name very well. And after 2 years, migration project was closed and all the schedule definitions were moved from TWS to OpsWise. Another important moment takes place in 2017, when based on the assessment of the products available on the market, we select UAC as a global workload automation and scheduling standard for ING. Next two points refer to actual release of the service, simply first for ING private cloud clients and also for those who at this point in time are not yet consuming private cloud infrastructure, simply to speed up migration of the other scheduling solutions we have in ING. And last but not least, we use UAC for something different than it was initially positioned for, as to build deployment solution and spin up new VMs on non-target environment to finally replace TASM. We can move to the next slide, where I want to elaborate a little bit more about so-called assumption pyramid that is represented by a number of points that can be seen as the requirements for the self-service we've built. So first assumption was that we are going to deliver universal agents for Windows and Linux platform only. We want to have it delivered fast, so by one-click installation and boarding to really improve the customer experience. So it's going to be really instant access. Once you click and request something, you get instant access to the environment. We don't want to do any manual intervention or operation on our squad level, so we decided that the process of the boarding has to be fully automated, and the DevOps domains, so the teams that are going to be onboarded, have to be fully separated and isolated between each other. Next one is that we have to build comprehensive knowledge base and also training programs for UAC users so that they know how to use UAC and they don't need our help in terms of operational work. And then migration support. So we supply the tooling and also we collab the enabling teams so that they can support and help the teams to migrate from the other scheduling solutions. And last but not least, again, is that something we've been working on is continuous customer experience enhancement. So another thing that I would like to elaborate a little bit more is how we organize the team domains within the UAC environment. And on the left-hand side, you will see the self-service portal where you can request to have the universal agent installed on top of your virtual machines. You can see the two subdomains of the universal agents on the right side, and also all the UAC objects that you can link to your team. And thanks to the combination of the business service and also naming convention that were imposed, the team is boarded, gets its own domain, and thanks to that, all the teams and agents and also all the objects associated to these teams are fully separated and isolated, because UAC is the multi-tenant environment, and in this case, this is how we achieve the full self-service. So this was the very quick introduction from my side, and I'm passing voice to you, Mariusz, so you can elaborate more about the technical aspects. So thanks to you, and Mariusz, voice to you.
Hello, I am a DevOps expert in ING, working from the very beginning in the UAC project. Previously, I worked also for scheduling and automation team with the Control M, BMC, Blade Logic, and other things. But yeah, from the beginning, as Patrick mentioned, we want to have fully automated solution to have the same configuration, heterogeneous across all the environments. So to do that, we create for example, agent boarding procedure and agent decommissioning procedure. So when the customer wants to start using UAC, first he needs to install the agent. All the teams are separated by the business service and prefix in all object definitions. That's in this scenario, we have clear information which objects belong to which team, which agents belong to each team, and it's really easy to maintain and to collaborate with teams. For doing agent boarding, we prepare a complete automatic way of doing that. First, we create the additional disks for our binaries, logs, etc. to not utilize the host disks. Then we install binaries for UAC, which is hosted on the some central environment like Ansible or SMA or SCCM to install it in Windows platform or Linux platform, independent from version. Then we do our job, so we perform the agent boarding REST API call with all the information about the host, tenant, environment, group toward our REST API. And then we check if the agent status is active inside the UAC to perform the proper boarding. Then we create set of groups depending on the environment. We create set of groups and set of permission templates for every group which is boarded. We also automatically added the team to LDAP synchronization, so the customer can log into the UAC environment just after he received the success execution of the boarding. We also create additional definition for our task for monitoring, and then send the customer success mail. As Patrick mentioned, all the information about the new customer is in there, about the naming convention, what are the requirements for the customer. We also give all the links, training videos, Confluence, etc. So the customer can start using the UAC just after he received the mail. Not only the customer who requested, but also whole team for which the agent belongs to. So everyone can use it. You can use the personal accounts on the environments or non-personal accounts. If you want to perform the automation, you can use non-personal accounts, which is non-interactive, and then you can also do a whole bunch of integration with the REST API just after you board your agent or install your agent. Also, to have the clear environment, we perform the same concept for the decommission of the agent. So the customer can request the decommission from the portal. First, we do deinstall the agent, remove the additional root disk on vCenter which was created, perform the decommissioning. So first check if agent is offline, then perform the reverse order of all action, and then we delete the agent. And our customer also has the really simple mail about it. We have all the information for history, who did what and when, and it's easy to check if any process of the boarding failed. We also made a lot of UAC integration for our customers, mainly for monitoring and alerting. So our agents, our customers, can't update the agent's definition because the agent is assigned to the business service, so he can't manipulate agent objects. That's why we create the integrations, which can be ordered in the self-service by the customer to, for example, agent monitoring via SNMP. For the production, if anyone who logged to the production should have the valid change or the valid incident for that, for monitoring, and we send all the login events to the production, to the Kafka queue, and the customer can build security with our Kafka integration. We also integrate with the ING Omnibus implementation. So every failure of the task or workflow can be automatically sent as an event to Omnibus, and the engineers on call can be informed, and the P1 incident can be created for production environment. In ING, we have also automatic callout application, so the robot can do a call to the engineers, send the SMS or email, create an incident, and it's done automatically based on rules. Also, to store the standard output or standard error output, we create an integration with S3 buckets for our customers. Customer can also create automatically incidents in ServiceNow if they want. And for the maintenance, we have ING Atlas portal, so the customer can directly do the patching of the servers, do any automation from the Atlas portal in UAC. It's very handy, for example, if you want to do a patching of big infrastructure. First, you can switch off your services and then perform the patching and bring up the services in proper order. So it's used by many of our customers. From the beginning, we want to have simple implementation for our customers to do the promotion of the UAC definition. At the beginning, it was done on GitLab, and now we are integrated with the Azure DevOps. So we create a tool which can store all your definition in Azure DevOps. It's a really fancy tool because you can promote your code between the branches. If you go to the main branches or master branch, you need to get the product owner approval. You can do 4 eyes principles on your code. You can easily track your changes. You can have a really big benefit of have a backup in the case of disaster of all your definitions inside the repo. You can also create the droning from your definition, and you can use the mapping of your objects, so you can promote the code between the environments really easy and really fast. As the second concept for using UAC as a code, we introduce possibility to write scripts directly in VS Code for UAC. We create a Python class which cover all UAC endpoints. So the customer just after boarding can start creating the scripts in Python just in VS Code. And with the UAC Azure integration, he can create the UAC script object just directly in the UAC controllers. The advantages of this solution is that you can test your code directly in the VS Code or in Azure if you want to integrate it with the Azure. You can do the code coverage reports, and the script is kept directly in the UAC controllers. I will show a little bit how we do that with the Azure. The only thing from the customer side is to create a pipeline for the particular branch. You need to choose the branch. You need to choose the filter object, which will filter all your definition in UAC based on regular expression. Then you can run the operation. As you can see, there is many operations which you can perform. The push operation is done from the controller toward the Azure DevOps, and the fetch operation is done from the Azure DevOps toward the controller. So you can do the push and fetch of particular object, or you can do fetch or push all the definition, and then you can have all the definition in upper environments. After you do the push, you will see in your repo that kind of structure. So it's based on folder, and in each folder you have a JSON definition. You can use also the mappings for example, cluster mappings, variable, credential names without passwords, trigger option, so you can define in which environment which trigger should be enable state or disable state. After you do the fetch, your trigger will be enabled or disabled for particular environment. And in this concept, we keep all the definition of UAC, all the objects, same across all environments. You're just changing how it's behaved by the variables mapping, cluster agents mapping, whatever. It's depend on you, and also the triggers can be enabled only for production or for development. It's up to you. But you have all the definition across all the environments. So it's really easy to maintain for our customers. Based also on the definition, you can have a backup, and you can also create the Excel sheet where you will see what is the dependency between the tasks, what is the predecessor, successor of the task, and you can also create in the case of big disaster, when the UAC is not available, you can create offline files, and based on that, you can see the starting point is the blue dot, and you can see what is the predecessor, successor of the task, what is the relation between the tasks. If you click on any dot, you will see the script name, execution user, command, etc. So you can retrieve it directly from the repo to run, for example, your workflow in a manual way on your servers in a really big disaster. The second thing which we introduce for the UAC as a code is our possibility to create the scripts inside the VSCode. So it's really simple. You can just create in the script from content folder, you can create a sample script in Python. Then you can import our UAC operator class, and that class cover all endpoints which is served by our by UAC REST API. So as you can see, there are many classes which you can use, for example, agents. The only thing you need to provide is the environment for which you will do the automation and authentication. Here you can specify the UAC variables, and then, for example, as we do, you can override it by local var.py file, which can contain other variable definition. Then when you do the import into the UAC, you can use directly embedded global variables or local variables inside UAC. You don't need to change anything. As you can see here, now when we load the local variables, it will override the definition of our variables UAC environment, authentication, etc. Now we can create any function, and we can start using our class to that. Maybe I will speed up a little bit. Yeah. Now, when we when we define the instance of the class, we will get all the methods which is currently configured in the class, and we will get all the information what data needs to be provided by the customer to use that method. Yeah, so we can see all the methods which is provided. Okay. Now we can execute that that function directly from UAC from the VS Code, and we should get the response. The big advantage of that solution is that we can also create the tests for any of our scripts. We just need to create the test inside the test directory, provide the test content, import our function from the sample script, and then we can just run the test. We can run the test inside the VS Code, or we can run it inside the Azure DevOps when we do the fetch of our definition via the Azure Git integrations. Very sorry. Oh.
Yeah, this is great just to be able to see the back end here and how you're setting this up.
Sorry. Now, as you can see, when we do the release of our code to the directly to the UAC with the Git integration, you can see that we can perform the tests inside Azure for our created test. And we will see also the same definition as a script object inside the UAC. And now we can just create a task related to the script, and we are ready to go. Every time when we do the fetch script into the Azure, we can define that the test should run for that script. We also want to do as much as possible automation for our infrastructure. So we are performing base administrative actions from Azure and all possible REST API calls. So we do the automatic patching of infrastructure for UAC and ING on OS level, on Tomcat level, on the controller level, OMS. We can also install from scratch in the code the Tomcat, controller, and OMS. So you just need to provide the proper host names and run the pipelines to install the new whole environment from the scratch in active, passive. It doesn't matter. How many hosts do you provide? It just do an installation from scratch. We can also perform a maintenance. So every new package which is published in the central repositories are done automatically with the testing pipeline. So we install the new version. We do the test of the task on the new created agent. And after that, we can publish the packages automatically without manual intervention. It's always the same. We also deploy the rules for Prometheus, and all monitoring rules is done automatically. We also start our adventure with the Docker. We are deploying UAC on the Docker with the OpenShift, so similar as AXA, but we need to strict only the agent to the particular business service. So that's why we create also assigned the Docker depot instances to the particular business service via the agent cluster. As always, we want to do all the action as simple as possible. So, for example, for patching, you just need to run the pipeline, define the environment, what you want to do. The same for installation of UAC or upgrade the UAC. You just need to check the environment and what you want to do, upgrade or install Tomcat or upgrade UAC. And you are defining in the code what is the current version, what should be the version. After the upgrade, it do all the automatic checks and perform the upgrade. It's also used for installation of the new components, so it's easy to run, and it's really less like consuming than copying all the stuff, and it's always the same. The same for the agent version. You just specify the agent version, which should be created, and all the tests run in the background automatically, all the packages preparation automatically for ING specific. As also Patrick mentioned at the beginning, we are using as a second team, service automation, we are also using the UAC as the orchestration tool to provisioning the hosts from the UAC. What we can do? We can provision the hosts. We can register in all the systems necessary by ING. We can also decom the hosts based on that. To do that, we need to do a lot of integration. We are provisioning the host based on the vCenter technology of VMware technology. So we integrate fully with the vCenter, the UAC. We need also register our host in Infoblox. So we have the full automation on Infoblox. For the installation of our host or hardening of our host, we are using Ansible for the Linux-based systems and the SCCM SMA for the Windows-based system. All the authorization and authentication is done via the box implementation in ING. So it's centrally, it's checked centrally. Then we also have the identity providers. So the authorization is checked against the central environment. Then we store all the passwords inside the vaults, centrally managed for the customer. We also register the CI in ServiceNow. And at the end, we keep all our deployment logs and all the logs from the provisioning inside the S3 buckets to have full overview about how the provisioning goes. Thank you very much.
Now just to some Q&A. I saw a few questions come in here today. The first one, Mariusz, I'm going to pass this over to you because I believe it came in while you were presenting. How do you provide access to the users that will install the agent and the user the agent will run on? Are you able to take that one?
Sorry, one more time.
Yeah. How do you provide access to the users that will install the agent and the user the agent will run on?
It's based on the groups. So when we get the REST API call, the server on which the agent is installed is assigned to the particular group. And we can fetch all the groups definition from the LDAP level or from the external tool. And based on that, we have the name of the team, or let's call it purpose of the team. And we create all the definition for each object based on the team name or the purpose of the team.
Perfect. Thank you. The next question we had was, what are some of the obstacles you're seeing with several business areas utilizing self-service automation, and how do you overcome these obstacles? Patrick, are you able to take that one?
Yeah, I'm going to pick this one. Well, the obstacles, that's a good question. Actually, I wouldn't call them obstacles, but these are kind of a different requirements coming from multiple different business lines. And of course, it's the product owner role to, first of all, get as much information as possible about the problem. And then we define or simply determine whether the action is for my team to build some new feature or integration, or this is something to be done by our team, or this is something that is to be changed in the way of working on the side of the team that requested for something. Yeah, this is how we simply deal with, not the obstacles, but this is kind of a day-to-day job for me, that we receive some certain requests, then we try to assess and get on the same page to understand the request and also understand the question, and then also to determine who's going to pick this one and where the action is to be taken, whether on our side or on the client side.
Awesome. Thank you both so much for your insight. Those are the only questions that we had today. Thank you again to everyone who joined, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much, and have a good day.
Thank you very much.